without further ado, let's dig into desktop subscription. So desktop subscription, what is it and how does it work? So first of all, let's go with what is desktop subscription. So here's the page on Autodesk.com that discusses desktop subscription. Basically what it is pay-as-you-go access. So instead of like with your normal standalone license or network license where you purchase the software. This is, say you're working on a project that's going to last you a month or two or something like that. You don't want to spend as much it would cost to actually purchase the whole program. You can just buy it for a month, rent it basically is what it amounts to. You can do it monthly, quarterly, or annual license, however long you need it for. That gives you the latest software, obviously. If a new version comes out, you get updated to a new version if it happens to fall when you're in your subscription period. You can add licenses, remove licenses as you need to, so it makes that very scalable. If you need to bring on additional people to a project, you get a few more desktop subscription licenses, and however many you need for that many people that are working on the project, and you're good to go at that point. So again, it's termed offering, so you rent it basically is what it amounts to. Again, annual, monthly basis. It requires named users, and by named users that means they have to have an account on accounts.autodesk.com. Because when they launch the software, it's going to ask them to sign in with their Autodesk account credentials. That's how the license is tied. It's tied to a user. It's not tied to a machine or to a network server when it comes to network license. It's per user. And again, there's offline support. So while it does have to confirm the license with the server, it will work for a certain amount of time. The grace period usually about 14 days if you don't have internet connectivity or for some reason can't check in with the license server to confirm. This is the Autodesk server, so a cloud server, not a local server. So it will work for usually up to 14 days without needing to check in to verify the license. But after that 14 days, it will not let you launch. It'll make you check in with the Autodesk server to confirm that the license is valid. So that's basically how that works. As far as installation, it's exactly the same. There's really no difference with it. You can download the installer from the virtual agent or from Subscription Center or from your Autodesk account, accounts.autodesk.com, any of those locations, and install it just like normal, same product key, and it's the serial number that determines the license type. So when you purchase a desktop subscription, you're given a desktop subscription serial number, and when you put in that serial number and launch the software, that's when it knows that this is the desktop subscription. We need you to sign in and verify that your license is valid and that it's actually assigned to you. So let's run through the installation process really quick. Again, just launch the installer, click on install, click next. If you've installed software, this is all going to look very familiar to you. And the license type, just leave it as standalone. That's the default, and standalone will work for both a regular standalone license, traditional standalone license, or the desktop subscription license. Again, it's the serial number that is going to determine which one of those it's going to be. And so go ahead and put in your serial number and the product key for the product. Assuming you see all those lovely green check marks, everything is good. So at that point, what's going to happen? How is this going to be different than if it was just a regular standalone license? Well, here's what's supposed to happen when you launch the software. Assuming everything's working properly, the first launch will look like the standard splash screen, whatever product is. So say it's AutoCAD 2015. You'll see the nice AutoCAD 2015 splash screen. You'll get the usual privacy policy dialog asking you to accept the privacy policy and check the box, say, yep, I agree. And then here's where it's going to be a little bit different. You'll get a sign-in prompt asking you to enter in your Autodesk ID, which is usually your email address, not always, but usually email address, and then your Autodesk password. And then it does its license check with Autodesk server, and the product opens. And once you've done that on the first launch, then subsequent launches, it'll be just like regular standalone or network license, any of those. You'll see the splash screen, and then the product runs. You won't get prompted to sign in again. However, if you have any issues, the right column here shows you what you might see. If it's an unnamed user, so if they don't yet have an account on accounts.autodesk.com, or if your subscription term has expired, you'll see a splash screen, you'll see a message to contact your administrator for permission to use the product, and you'll just have a quit button. You won't really get any other options there. You'll have one button where it's got option to sign in as a different user in case you're signing in with an account that you didn't mean to sign in with, and that person isn't named on the Autodesk account. Then you can sign in with a valid user account there. If you're getting near the end of the grace period, so getting close to the 14 days, where it hasn't been able to check in with the Autodesk server, you'll get the splash screen, and you'll get a message saying that it needs to connect to the internet to confirm the license. You'll have three options there. You can either click ignore, at which point it hasn't checked in with the server, so it hasn't met the need to report with the server, but it will still run because you're getting close to the end of your grace period, but you're not there yet. So it'll continue to run. It'll just pop up that warning every time you launch the software saying, hey, you need to check in, because it's going to run out pretty soon here. You also have an option to try again. Say for some reason your internet connectivity wasn't working briefly, but you fixed whatever it was that was doing that. You get a try again button. Assuming it can connect at that point, that means the report needs were met and the product just runs and you're good. And then you also get a quit button, so you know that you can't connect to the server and you don't actually need to use the software right now. You should just click quit and that'll close out of the software. And then the final thing you might see there is you're past the end of the grace period. You've hit your 14 days and you absolutely need to connect to the server before it'll let you run the software. So you'll see the standard splash screen, you'll see the message that you need to connect to the internet to confirm the license, and then you'll get a try again button. You don't get an ignore button at this point because you can't ignore it and just use the software because you have run out of the grace period for when it needs to check in to verify the license. So you get try again, and assuming it can connect to the server at that point, you're good, it runs, or you get the quit option, and then the software won't run. So that's basically what you see. So let's give you some visual of what that's going to look like. So you launch it. Here's the splash screen. There's the privacy statement, and of course you read every single word of that and check the box and agree. And then here's where you'll see that it's connecting to try to activate the license. So you'll see the nice spinny circle there for a second or two. And here's the sign-in screen that you'll see. So it's asking for Autodesk ID or email address, and that's usually going to be your email address or an email address, whichever one you happen to configure it with, maybe not your standard email address, and then whatever password you have set up on accounts.autodesk.com. Again, this requires users to be named users, so they have to have an account on accounts.autodesk.com. Again, you're required to enter the username and password, and let's see, serial number is what is going to determine the license type. So if you've used just a regular standalone license serial number, you won't get any of this stuff. It'll just go through the standard activation, activate first launch. You won't get prompted to log in or anything like that. It'll just go through standard activation. But if you've used a desktop subscription serial number, that's when you'll get this prompt to sign in. There are a couple of limitations with the desktop subscription model. There's no single sign-in between the desktop license and cloud service. So you sign in to verify your license, but then say you want to access Autodesk 360, that's not going to carry over the sign-in from here for verifying the license. You'll need to sign in a second time for the Autodesk 360 stuff. So not a huge deal, but just be aware that it's not a sign-in once and then everything else uses those same credentials and you're good to go. And the second limitation is there's no logout button on here. So say you're using the software and another user comes along and they want to sign in with their account on it. There is no log out button. It kind of stores the login information in a file in the user's profile under C users username on there, and it caches the credentials in there, and so there's no log out option, you'd have to sign out of Windows and sign in with that other person's Windows account. And assuming they have signed in with the software on that computer before, then it will use their cache credentials to sign them in. I mean, alternatively, you could go in and delete the file from the hard drive, and then that would prompt to sign in again, but that's, you know, getting a little more into troubleshooting stuff than you'd really want to do just to switch to a different user to sign in there. All right, so what issues can you run into with the desktop subscription licenses? A couple different types. There's ones that are either administrative issues, usually where the user doesn't yet have an account on accounts.autodesk.com, or they haven't been assigned a seat for that software. Or there can be technical ones where, you know, for some reason you can't connect to the internet or other issues that may be going on that are preventing the desktop subscription licensing from working. So let's take a little deeper look into each of those types of issues. As far as administrative ones, this is the one you'll usually see. You pop up the software, you sign in, and then you get this message, contact your administrator to request permission to use this product. What that means is you are a named user, so it's verified that you have an account on accounts.autodesk.com, but whatever software it is that you're trying to sign in and verify your license on, you have not yet been assigned that software in accounts.autodesk.com. The contract manager is the one who assigns out the licenses to everybody in the company, so they have not yet gone in and assigned that license to you. So yeah, again, that you may get something similar if you're an unnamed user. Usually you would get a username and password not found. But if you there's a periodic check on there to make sure that the user is a named user on the contract. Let's see, anything else in here that I haven't mentioned yet? Now looks like we've gone over that. So let's move on to the kind of the process for setting up a user in accounts.autodesk.com. Once the contract manager has set up an account for you, they can they add users in accounts.autodesk.com. You'll get a confirmation email, and it will have you create an account and log in to manage.autodesk.com, which is the same as accounts.autodesk.com. Then you install the software using your serial number and product key. The contract manager at this point, this is where they assign they can add a user here or assign the software to them. So they'd click on the add button under users, and then they'll assign, in this case, AutoCAD LT. If that happens to be the software that you have a license for, they would assign that software a license for that to your account on accounts.autodesk.com. And likewise, if that person leaves or if they're no longer on the project that requires them to have a license for that software, you just go in and either remove them from the list of users or just unassign the license from them. When you invite them, it'll have some icons next to their name. If it's a gray circle, it means that they've been invited and they have gotten sent the invitation email, but that user has not yet clicked on the link in the email to finish setting up their account. Green check mark means they're good to go. They've gone through all the process to get their account set up, and you can go ahead and assign the software to them at that point, and they should be able to sign in and use it without any issues as far as needing to contact the administrator for permission or not be able to sign in. First time you launch software, again, you need to log in with that account, and then it'll connect to the Autodesk server, which you'll need to do usually once every 14 days. I don't know if there's any products that have any different amount of time than that, but I think they're all 14 days at this point, and verify the license at that point. If you have any issues with managing the account or adding users or anything like that, we have our front desk team that helps with those kinds of issues. If you go to our Contact Us page on Autodesk.com, it'll take you to this page here. And of course now I'm getting a message that I can't download things, but there we go. All right, so it'll take you to this page here, And this, you just fill this out, and this gives you the option to either submit a case, which will happen if you fill this out, or at the top of the page you can click on Need Assistance, and that will open a chat session with one of our representatives, and they can help you out with any issues you're having with the adding users or assigning any of the software to the users. Now let's move on to the technical issues now. These are the ones we tend to see more commonly. Say, for example, if you have a connection error, it'll say this error can be caused by an inaccurate time on the system clock or by temporary system unavailability. Please check the system clock and try again. That issue can happen if, for some reason, there's something not right with the clock settings on your computer. They can even look like they're right. Maybe you have the time zone set wrong, but the time is set correct for your location. Or even everything looks like it's correct, but for some reason Windows isn't registering it as being correct. It can pop up this error message. And we'll run through a little more detail of how to fix that one shortly here. And again, this is the one where it's got, you're getting close to the end of your reporting period, your 14-day grace period, and you haven't checked in with the licensed server. You'll get this message saying you need to report soon. You can either ignore it and continue to use the software, click on try again if you happen to fix your internet connection that was down briefly, or just quit and not use the software at that point. If the term has expired, again, this is, you get the 14-day allowance, but if you get past that, that's when you get the message saying that you have to check in. You only get the option to try again or to quit. You don't have the option to just ignore at that point. And one limitation, another limitation with the desktop subscription stuff is that if you have a suite license and your term has expired, so the term of your desktop subscription has expired, and you renew it and then get a different serial number, you can't just change that serial number in one product of the suite. Has to be done on each product. So when you launch the software, it will pop up a message saying, activate with a different serial number, and you'll get that for each product in the suite. So you'll need to enter in your new serial number for each product. This is what the screen you'll get if you see something like that. So it's got to renew your license, which means that the term of your desktop subscription has expired. So you had a 1-month subscription that expired, and then you got a new desktop subscription. You'll get a new serial number. This is where you would enter that. You get this when you launch your software, and it checks in with the server and sees that your desktop subscription has expired. So you just enter a new serial number there, click on activate, and you're good to go. This is how you can tell if you're using a desktop subscription. If you bring up the product information dialog screen, so in the product, there's a little down arrow next to the question mark up at the top right of the product window. Click on that and go to About, the product name, and click on the product information button on the window that pops up. This is what you'll see. If it is a desktop subscription, you'll see license model term down at the bottom right there, and license date as subject to license term. So it won't show you the actual date that it's going to expire there. It just tells you it's subject to whenever your desktop subscription license expires. If it says standard there instead of term for the license model, that means it hasn't been activated correctly. For some reason it thinks it's a standalone, regular standalone license, and you'll need to reactivate it with your term license serial number. So you'd have to do an uninstall and a reinstall, or click on update there for the serial number and change it to your desktop subscription serial number to continue with your term license at that point. All right, this is the most common error, technical error that we see with the desktop subscription, which is establish an internet connection to continue. So for some reason, something's keeping the software from being able to contact the Autodesk server to verify your license. And you may have a perfectly good internet connection, you can get to websites and all that, but something is preventing it from actually getting to the Autodesk server to do what it needs to do to verify your license. And here's the workflow in Windows for how you can fix that particular issue. You can get this message with if your date or time is incorrect. So you want to verify that you have the right date and time on the computer. There's a few files that can get corrupted sometimes that you might need to delete. There's a location for them there. They're going to be under your user profile. So see users, your whatever username is, app data roaming, Autodesk, ADUT. And then there's another file under see users, your username, app data roaming, Autodesk, ADUT2. There's a couple files under there. If you delete them and then relaunch the software, those are the files that cache your login credentials. So you delete those, sign in again. Sometimes that will get rid of the error message. And then also you want to verify that you don't have any proxy settings set up in your Internet options. You can do that by launching Internet Explorer and then go up to Tools or the gear icon up at the top right, depending on which version of Internet Explorer you have. Click on Internet Options, and then you select the Connections tab, click on the LAN Settings button, and make sure everything there is unchecked. Sometimes it will have the first option where it's got automatically detect settings checked. That's usually the default. But often if you just uncheck that, that will magically get things working. We'll be able to connect to the Autodesk server at that point. And you especially want to make sure that there are no proxy settings in there. Usually any proxy settings in there will almost certainly prevent the software from being able to connect to the Autodesk server. And once you've got that stuff cleared out, you just OK out of everything and test things again. Hopefully that'll do it. Another thing is that there's a cookie that gets set, or a certificate that gets installed when you go access the accounts.autodesk.com page. That has to be installed before you are able to sign in. So if for some reason you're getting this message and you've tried all the other steps, make sure you go to accounts.autodesk.com. You don't actually have to even log in there. Just go to that page and it installs the certificate that it will need for the desktop subscription licensing, and test it again at that point. Sometimes you need to try it from a different Windows profile. Maybe there's some corruption in your Windows profile. If you create a new Windows profile and log in through there, that can also get around this particular issue. But what if you have a Mac and you have that issue? There's a little bit different workflow for that. And let's actually take a look at, we have a, here's the Mac article for it here. There's two things that usually fix this issue on a Mac that I would suggest you try first. First of all, make sure you don't have auto proxy discovery checked in your network settings. This is similar to the automatically detect network settings setting in Windows. So make sure that is unchecked. And the other thing that you want to do is make sure is go in and delete these files. So this is similar to the one that you delete in Windows, except on Mac it's under User, Username, Library, which is a hidden folder, so it's sometimes kind of tricky to get into the library folder, but there are ways to do it. And then Application Support, Autodesk, ADUT, just delete all the files under that folder. And then usually you're good to go. Again, similar to Windows, there's a certificate that needs to get installed. So if you haven't yet, access accounts.autodesk.com in Safari, just load the site, don't even bother signing in, and you will get that certificate installed. Again, similar with Windows, make sure that the date and time are correct on the computer. If it looks correct, change something and save it and then change it back. A lot of times that's all it takes to get the system to recognize the correct time. Again, do that in Windows also. It has the same issue there. Sometimes everything looks good, but as soon as you change it and change it back, something kicks in and it can recognize that the time is indeed correct at that point. Make sure you don't have any antivirus or firewall software enabled. That's a good way to test, just to make sure that neither one of those is blocking it. And if you determine that it is, then you can go ahead and try setting up some exceptions in the antivirus and firewall software to allow the connections to go through. Again, check the connection settings, make sure no proxy is set, and then launch the product, and you should get the login prompt at that point. On occasion, you've done all this stuff, and you still get that establish an internet connection to continue message. If that happens, sometimes you need to go to a computer that it works on and copy the folder under user/username/library/application support/Autodesk. Copy that whole folder to the non-working computer. Something is getting corrupted in the files under there, and for some reason deleting them and recreating them isn't fixing it. So if you copy that folder from a working computer to the non-working one, that will often get around the issue if for some reason these other troubleshooting steps did not resolve the issue. Now say you've tried all that stuff, in particular on Windows. This is not something you'd want to try on Mac yet at this point. But on Windows, if you tried all those settings and nothing has helped, then there's a program called Fiddler. It can be the magic bullet that you need to get things working here. Again, only use it if the previous workflow didn't resolve the issue. But this can take care of multiple issues that you can see. Sometimes you'll launch the software and there's plain old will not be a login window that shows up. Or it can also help with the establish an internet connection to continue message. What Fiddler is, it's a program that's used to debug proxy settings, basically, or proxy issues. And it can help with the desktop licensing stuff here, with the error message that you get with it. So again, this has only been tested on Windows. The Mac version is currently in alpha, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend trying to install it on a Mac at this point. Wait for it to get to a more finalized state than try and install alpha software. But let's take a look at what steps you'll need to do in Fiddler. So this is a third-party tool. This isn't an Autodesk provided tool. It's just one we found that can help get around the issue. So you download it and install it. And then when you run it, there's a few different settings that you need to configure in there. You'll launch it, you'll go into the options and set these settings under the HTTPS tab. So you'd check the decrypt HTTPS traffic and then go to the tools menu. So to the right here, and choose the Win iNet options, and basically add 127.0.0.1, port 8888, and you do all this stuff, and save everything, and then launch your Autodesk software. And almost always, if the other troubleshooting steps that you've tried haven't fixed it, this will. And once it's established its connection, you can go ahead and uninstall Fiddler, and things should be fine from that point forward. But Fiddler works its magic there and manages to get around whatever issue it is that might be causing the problem. Another thing that I haven't mentioned that you'll want to check that's Mac and Windows agnostic is if you're on a corporate network, make sure that the corporate firewall or proxy is not blocking things. So if you can look in the firewall or proxy logs, see if it's got anything related to the Autodesk licensing that it's blocking, set up exceptions for those, and that should get around the issue also. A good way to test that is try to connect to a network other than the one in your corporate office and see if it can connect through that. Like if you have a cell phone, you can set up a hotspot through that, and if it can connect through there, then you know there's something on your corporate network that's blocking the connection. All right, so that's pretty much it for the desktop subscription troubleshooting. Hope you've learned some things, or at least gotten an idea of where you can go to look up these troubleshooting steps. I'm sure you're not going to have them all memorized yet at this point, but hope you've learned something, and thanks for listening. I will